Alright folks, that is where I want to say a special greetings and yes, welcome to all of you already locked in to that space. That is the Saturday Night Live program that yours truly, those of you who don't know my name, Loftus Duran, aka Lofty, normally have on a Saturday night in the Commonwealth of Dominica. That is a program where yours truly goes live and speak about everything and yes, anything that concerns us in Dominica, the region, and by extension the global community as it is called. So we are here again for yet another Saturday night program. That is the 21st night of December 2024. And so by just me mentioning that date, you will well imagine that basically this year 2024 is slowly but surely coming to a close. And so on that note, those of you out there, the many of you out there who celebrate or recognize the season that we're in, the Christmas season, a Merry Christmas to you guys out there. I wish you guys a very merry one. I also recognize and realize that there may be some of you who don't recognize that time of year. And so if you are here and you're not recognizing that time of year as well, greetings and welcome nonetheless to this program. Again, let me just say to all the fans, friends, followers, yes, and foes of this program, greetings and welcome to each and everyone. Folks, tonight it's going to be another very interesting night here, at least for the next 2 hours to come, where I will be discussing with you guys some real pertinent issues as it relates to our country, primarily Dominica. And so if you're in Dominica this time, I normally call it this little rock, this blessed rock, right smack in the center of the region. Good evening to you, those of you further afield. Pleasant greetings and welcome as well. Folks, in terms of the weather situation in Dominica for the past 3-4 days, yes, about there, we have been having some real serious torrential waters in Dominica, and that has caused some areas in Dominica to be really saturated. And so we are following, or we have heard on social media and other forms, some of the affected areas in Dominica. So if you are in one such area, prone to flooding, landslides, whatever it is, as a result of the impact of the considerable amount of rainfall that we have gotten in the past 3-4 days, please take the necessary precautions and please be safe out there, each and every one. All right? We would not want someone to be injured as a result of they not being very careful. So that is why I ask of us tonight to please take the necessary precautions, especially those of us who are living in the flood-prone areas. We know Dominica is basically valleys and mountains. If you're not up, you're down. And so beat you're up, you can come down, and beat you're down, then you will be, or can be, swept away. So please take very careful attention indeed. We are going to have this evening, folks, at least 4 different segments to the conversation tonight. The first segment that I'll be touching on with you guys out there, obviously with your input, your suggestions, your questions, comments, which I will take some time to deal with tonight. It is to talk to you guys about a situation where this week, just this week, Monday it was, our parliament convened, and a number of bills were brought before parliament, but one very interesting bill, in 3 parts that is, that was taken before parliament, at least for the first reading, was the much talked, the much taunted electoral reform bill. That bill was tabled before parliament, and as a result of that, then we saw on our shores at the Woodbridge Bay, the Barbados Coast Guard vessel, at least one, it was docked in our waters for some time. And so I'm going to tell you some more of the information that I learned about this vessel, and the reason being here, connecting it back to the parliamentary sitting that we had on Monday. Second on the agenda, we're going to hear from a brother from St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the name of Mr. Israel Bruce. Israel Bruce is a lawyer from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I know him well enough, and so whatever he will be saying to us tonight is something that we, as I normally say, you can take to the bank. So we'll be hearing from him. He's a current member of parliament in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and so he is a true representative of the people, those of whom he has the opportunity to represent at this time. A lawyer by profession, I said. He basically represented some people in terms of the interests in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And so I'm going to let you hear him, what he had to say, and also, but more importantly, dovetail that or parallel that or form some kind of connection and nexus to our situation right here in Dominica based on his intervening or his intervention in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So Brother Israel Bruce, good evening to you, my brother. You should be on the live as we speak. And so I thank you very much. And those of you in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this time, thank you very, very much indeed. Gerald Vital, you're saying that my volume is low. Can anybody else testify to my volume being low, as Mr. Vital is alluding to? Let me just hear from other voices or the sources out there in terms of that volume being extra low, as Mr. Vital is saying, and I will try something on my end. But the levels on my end, based on my monitor here and my system here, it is where I normally have it each and every Saturday, so it should be AOP. All right, but I just need to get some confirmation from some other folks out there. All right. Also, to a segment that we'll be touching on as well, it is the situation of something that is expected in January, mid-January, that is 2025, where that bill you heard of, I spoke of before, that was tabled in Parliament. I'm getting from the grapevine, that come January, mid-January about, the government of the day in Dominica, headed by none other than Roosevelt, he will be bringing that bill in particular back to Parliament, where the second and third reading will be on the way. And if the government will have its way, then those bills would no longer be bills, but they would be law indeed. And so you'll be hearing my take on what is to come and how am I playing my part in getting our people out there well prepared for what is to come. All right. So, folks, that in a nutshell, it is the ballpark program for tonight, and I hope that you guys are feeling very, very comfortable wherever you are at this time. Please make yourself feel comfortable, because it promises to be yet another very, very interesting one indeed. I normally start with a song from Brother Lucky Dubby, which at least a line or two in that song. As a matter of fact, that song is entitled Guns N' Roses. And so you can, based on the title of that song, you can well imagine the situation that song lends itself to. And a line in that song, a punch line in that song is, we have to agree to disagree, as it were. All right? Basically telling us that we have to be united, because the old fable is true: divided we fall, united we stand. And so I believe in that punchline very much in that track, and so that is why I make it a point of duty every time to play that song into your hearing just before we start, so that your conscious level, your consciousness level, as it were, could rise a notch to the programs that are dished out here each and every Saturday. So, folks, you may not agree with what I have to say, and vice versa. Sometimes I may not agree with your comment, but at the end of the exercise, we have to agree to disagree, and yet move on. Yeah? Good. Let us start with the weather situation that we have been privy to for the past, at least for today. Trust me, folks, it was really, really terrible today in Dominica, where we had a number of waterways basically bursting their banks and overflowing ravines and water from mountain, and water was just gushing all over the place. But amidst all that, well, we are accustomed to this kind of situations not in Dominica. But amidst all that, I want to take time to point out to us one more time, at least one more time. I've said it, I went over it many, many times before, but I'll be repeating it tonight. A lot of us saw this little video clip that was made. For those of you who are in Dominica, you should know under the Canefield Cliff very well. Those of you out of Dominica, the Canefield Cliff is basically on the, just leaving town, just leaving the city, and you are traveling on the west of the island, that is. There is a place we call under the Canefield Cliff. Canefield is a village in Dominica. And as you're approaching under that Canefield area, that cliff really is under an area called Mont Daniel. And so Mont Daniel is this elevated area. The main road passes right under that elevated area. And whenever it rains in Dominica, under that Canefield Cliff, as it is called, it is a very, with a capital V, very dangerous place to be traversing to and fro. And so this morning, it was no difference. A matter of fact, this morning I went to the market, and in going to the market, it was not that bad as yet in terms of what I'm about to tell you. But in coming from the market and passing under that cliff area, I took note of that very heavy source of water coming from on top the Mont Daniel area. Why am I saying that? That area in particular, among all the other affected areas in Dominica, which poses a serious threat to lives and properties in Dominica, that area was earmarked many, many years ago as a place, as a very dangerous place, not by me, but by the powers that be. And so the powers that be said certain things to us in Dominica before, as it relates to fixing or remedying that problem in the interest of lives, property, and safety. Some of us know exactly well where I'm talking about. And even if it doesn't rain, dry, hot sun, favorable weather, we usually have boulders, stones, whatever you want to call it, rolling from that elevated area and reaching down on that main road where vehicles and pedestrians alike are present on a daily basis. Folks, we know the congestion that when we get under the Canefield Cliff, most of the times when the city is busy in the morning with cruise ships and whatever it is, we know the level of congestion that is caused in terms of backlog of traffic, all the way back sometimes to Maho and Jinit and beyond. And under that stretch of road, Canefield Cliff, as it is known, people, a number of times, some of us, I am saying now, we are trapped for some time, be it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 minute, 20 minutes, whatever it is, in terms of time. We are trapped under that Canefield Cliff because of the level of congestion going into the city, sometimes getting out of the city if it has an accident or whatever it is. And so I need not explain to us as Dominicans now, those of us who have experienced that on a number of occasions, I did not explain. We know. And at least one purpose of a government, one of the objectives, one of the aim of a government should be to help protect the citizenry at all costs. Secret Empress, yes. We know about the South as well, Soufriere, Point Michel, and the like. As I said, Dominica is either you are living up on a valley, you are living up on a mountain, or you are living down in a valley. So we know how it is in terms of terrain. But just for tonight's conversation, I am zeroing under that Canefield Cliff. And so for the umpteenth time, I am going to let you hear in your hearing what none other than Roosevelt Skerrit said to us as Dominicans many, many years ago as it relates to the fixing of that problem that we saw showed up today again. And so for some time today under that Canefield Cliff, I wasn't there, but I'm being told that it was a real mess. The people that were there were basically caught between a rock, physical rock, and a hard place. In that this excess volume of water from the Mont Daniel area came gushing down that mountain and basically causing some serious excess of water on that main highway, on that main road, as causing vehicles to come to a halt for a little while. And so imagine your family or friend was in that situation at that time, whereby you had to stop, literally bring your vehicle to a halt because the situation there, it was so dire. And that didn't just come about today, people. That didn't come about today. And so I'm going to take you back 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. We are now on the verge of 25. 6 long years have passed. And the words of Roosevelt Skerrit cannot be made true in the interest of the Dominican people and visitors alike as it relates to the clear and present danger that that strip of road poses whenever it rains, or sometimes when nature would have its way. High hot sun. I well remember about 1993 thereabout. No rain, absolutely no water, and a piece of that cliff closer to the Lyndhurst funeral area just came down, and the road was impassable for some time. Those of you who are good in the topography of land and soil testing and whatever it is, in the survey field and whatever it is, if that is your profession, you will know, you will agree that that type of material, that rock, that piece of mountain is made up of, it is not the toughest of materials. Compare and contrast that to somewhere like Les Point. It is mountainous, yes. But that material in the less point area, as a matter of fact, that is where that company uses the stones up here, the raw materials up here. Crush it, and we get materials to build our homes. So that lends itself to the structural suitability now of what I'm talking about. So under that Kenfield cliff, it is what we refer to as Kaye. It does break apart. A little water, little energy, less energy, it just crumble. Compare that to Less Point, where these stones are really solid stones. And so it was your Prime Minister who said to you guys in 2018, you will hear him in just a while. I don't want to quote him. I want you to hear him for the umpteenth time, as I said, because I keep playing that in you guys' memory or to you guys, but sometimes it just, but God forbid, something really drastic will take place under that Kenfield Cliff area, and some of you will say, oh my God, if I had known. You have known, you are knowing tonight again. The power is in your hands, the power is in my hand, people, to do something about our situation. That is the long and short that I'm telling you tonight. We must stop making politicians, Bob Marley called them tricksters, take us for a ride. Just talk. And after the talk, then that talk is basically like hot air. Nothing, absolutely nothing materializes after that. And so tonight, I'm going to play in your hearing what I deduce to be hot air as it pertains to a promise. Let me see if I can pull up let me see if I can pull up that audio for you people as we are trekking on. So it is not my saying. It is just me reminding us as a people where we were and where we are still. Let me see. I think it's this one. Folks, let me just see if I could. See here, I'm trying to pull up a site. It is basically telling me this site has been provided as, this site can't provide a secure connection. So let me just try to see if I could pull that up on another area here to let you guys hear exactly what I'm talking about. All right, just give me 1 minute. I have my wires crossed here tonight, people. Yes, now. Okay, let me just send this somewhere else so I could pull this up here. Okay. I think we can go now. Let's bring up a level here. This is this one. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to hear the man who was the Prime Minister then, still the Prime Minister today, making a promise to us in Dominica as it relates to what we saw earlier today, the danger that we have to go through every time it rains, and absolutely nothing in that regard from since his words way back then in 2018. Take a listen.
The leader people tonight now discuss this. The issue of the cliff at Cadefield, of just below Mondania, will be moving in the cabinet tomorrow to compulsory acquire the lands to create the bypass at Mondania with immediate action. And to declare this road a public road so as to mitigate against the landslide. But what we are in consultation with the French authorities. Who should be here is in this week, next week, who will actually come in to advise us on slope stabilization in different parts of the country. And this is one area that we will be seeking the advice on what can we do to mitigate against it. But you recognize that it is very hollow. And this has not only come not only during the rainy time, even in hot sun, it has eroded. But there is great anxiety, and obviously it is inching into Mount Daniel and their homes that are right on the edge there. So we'll be moving with the bypass. I know there's some issue with a landowner who has blocked that section, but we'll move with surveyors to acquire this land by cabinet decision tomorrow and to create an access. But appreciate this, my friends, that in these circumstances, there will be need for decisive action on the part of the Prime Minister, because there are decisions that cannot wait for time. And those that can wait for time will allow time to pass. But I am not in the business of procrastinating. And we cannot have committees meeting on an urgent matter, and while committees are meeting and people are suffering. So let us understand where I sit, or try to appreciate where I sit.
All right, folks, you just heard there the voice of Roosevelt Scary. And his voice, that voice, it was documented on the 1st of March 2018, where he said in Parliament that he will be moving to do certain things as Prime Minister. He didn't say that in a rum shop. He didn't say that by the road. He didn't say that to friends. He said that at Parliament. And so if you cannot take a man's word, who is supposed to be an honorable man sitting in Parliament, that is the highest law-making body in the land where laws are enacted. If you cannot take a man's word from there, then you cannot take his words nowhere. You cannot take his words nowhere. And so I'm going to help you. Take it very slow. Take it down a notch. Go through that statement of Roosevelt Scary, 1st of March 2018, so that you could understand what he said to us then and what is our present reality today, 6 years on. Let's take it step by step.
The leader people tonight now discuss this. The issue of the cliff at Cadefield.
The leader of the opposition and myself, we have discussed this. The issue of the cliff at Cadefield. Okay? That's what he said back then.
Just below Mondania. We'll be moving in the cabinet tomorrow to compulsory acquire the lands to create the bypass at Mondania with immediate action.
So it's not me said that, people. It's not me said that. It's not me saying that now. It is me repeating that in your hearing as to Roosevelt carried words back 6 years, where he said, we will be moving in the parliament, that is the people's house, tomorrow to compulsory acquire some land in the interest of the people's safety. He didn't say that, I'm putting it here now, because it is inferred. That's what he meant. To build a bypass in the Mount Daniel area to remove people from the danger that under the cliff poses ever so often. We continue. Now, what you're hearing in the background now is Roosevelt in Parliament, and the clappers, they are in the background. The cheerleaders, they are in the background cheering on their leaders' words. Ask any one of them today. Well, most of them who are there today, they were not there then. These guys had shuffled them all over like a deck of cards. But ask any one of them, present today in Parliament or past parliamentarians, ask them to ask Roosevelt to do anything about his words today, way back when, and I'm telling you, you will hear nothing from these people. And that is what holding people accountable is all about. Roosevelt told us many years ago, he doesn't drink alcohol, so he wasn't drunk. He was in Parliament telling us what he is prepared to do after he spoke with the leader of the opposition as it pertains to removing people, the Dominican people, the governees. Up till this day, absolutely nothing has been done in that department in terms of making his words come alive, be a reality. Nothing. And so I'm saying again, if a man's words cannot be trusted at that high level, where else, what else can we trust coming from him? So if in a quote-unquote simple matter like that, where you have the country's purse at your disposal to use it in a willy-nilly fashion, like you did and continue to do. You remember the Red Clinic people? I'm not straight. I'm just connecting the dots as to how this man and his regime has used and continue to use the country's purse, the people's money, in their selfish political quests and interests. And the people's business, rightfully so, stays at the back. Incomplete. Unsatisfied people. So let's get back. He said he was moving tomorrow to compulsory acquire land from one or two landowners in the area that was most likely maybe giving some issues as to they did not want to give up their land. But government has this long arm, as it were. Once it is in the people's interest and the necessary protocol or process is followed, it can acquire anything in the interest of the public. So if it's a road, a school, a hospital, or whatever it is, all government have to do is to follow the necessary guidelines set out by policy and put your money in the treasury for you, and the bulldozers move in. And we have seen that in Wesley. But up till now, he and his bunch cannot compulsory, as he said, move in to take the Dominicans' lives much more seriously. But we will have him in Parliament over and over again, and the parliamentarians now are supposed to be asking the questions on our behalf. They are afraid to speak. They are afraid to ask. They are afraid to inquire. And so Roosevelt's carrot should have been made to be put on the spot in Parliament by somebody in Parliament, be it a member of his or the opposition. Well, there's no opposition now, so I guess in that regard, Kaipul Kwaze, as they say. But somebody in Parliament should have the balls or the guts, if it's a female, to say, Mr. Prime Minister, you said such and such in 2018. Where are we at in the interest of my people? But what you have people who are just there clapping and laughing away, whilst the people's business remain unsolved or unresolved.
And to declare this road a public road, so as to mitigate against the landslide. But what we have,
whenever in his mind that process was complete about acquiring land compulsory and doing that bypass, in his warped mind then, still today, he said that they would declare that road a public road to now mitigate what I am speaking of tonight, what the Dominican people have been witnessing and have been experiencing for a number of years.
We are in consultation with the French authorities. Who should be here? Is it this week? Next week? Who will advise, who actually come in to advise us on slope stabilization?
Roosevelt said back then, and folks, that is not yesterday, as I said before, just to reiterate that point. 6 years back, we are touching 7 years now, in a couple of days. They are in contact with the French authority. He doesn't give name, he doesn't give details, he doesn't give facts. The French authority is just so large and wide. Whenever people, they are telling untruths to you, you get this kind of wide open scenarios in terms of not enough details. So that today, 6 years on, yours truly or any other body interested in those words cannot go back now to any French authority in terms of details and ask whether these words were true then or it is true today. And that is how you know liars, people. They are very, very economical with the truth. They are very, very economical with details. They don't provide you with much details. They don't want to be pinned down. And so if he or his government were in connection with the French authority, it cannot be the entire French government. It has to be a certain segment or section or organization within the French authority that you are in direct contact with. And so name of an organization, the name of details in terms of personnel, and whatever it is, supposed to have been injected in that statement if his words were not hot here then. But as I said, you know people by not just what they do, but what they say, and more so some of what they don't say. Let's continue, Roosevelt.
In different parts of the country. And this is one area that we will be seeking the advice on what can we do to mitigate against it. But you recognize that it is very hollow. And this has not only come out only during the rainy time. Even in hot sun, it has eroded. But there is great anxiety.
Okay, so here's Roosevelt confirming what I just said to you guys a while ago. So I wasn't speaking off my head. He said, and he knows, it is very hollow. It is very hollow, a piece of rock. It is very porous, that piece of rock. It is not as solid. And so that area is prone to just being broken up ever so often once nature visits it. Be it water, wind, whatever it is. And so he knows that. But he knew that then it seems as if he conveniently forgot about his words then. And we are in the same predicament, or I'm saying now, even worse a predicament than we were 6 years ago. Because folks, if you look up, when you're passing under that cliff, you will see the danger, the potential danger that is up there. Right under where we are passing to go to Roseau, to and fro Roseau, that piece of rock has a number of cracks in there. Those of you who have a soft heart or your heart is not strong, please don't look up. But those of you who can muster the energy to look up and see for yourself. You don't have to be no big time, nothing. You can deduce for yourself. You can make an assumption. You can come to your own conclusion as to what the danger is that we, the Dominican people, have been subjected to from time immemorial. And so you have a man in the name of Roosevelt Scary said in Parliament, he and his government, they were going to make moves to fix it. 6 years on, nothing. And the worst thing about it is 6 years on, not an apology, not a statement in rebuttal, nothing in terms of coming to the Dominican public and saying, guys, you know something, I said that then, but here is the situation, why it could not have been done. Nothing. And he continues to move as if all is well. God forbid.
And obviously it is inching into Mont Daniel and their homes that are right on the edge there. You know, so we'll be moving with the bypass. I know there's some issue with a landowner who has blocked that section.
Let's go, people. Let's dissect that bit now. And let me bring it home to you guys. I don't know if it was by divine intervention that he said that danger that cliff poses to people and pedestrians alike in terms of vehicular flow. There are homes up there, potentially, that can be affected as well. And when he said that, people, he wasn't leaving Mont Daniel just yet. And so for those of you who don't know, Roosevelt Scary, the same man who uttered these words then in 2018, presently, today, that's why I said most likely it was by divine intervention that he used those words. He is living directly on that area that he said back then poses a danger to property and lives above in Mont Daniel. So exactly where we're seeing that heavy gush of water comes through now, under that Kenfield cliff, if you trek up that mountain, you will be falling in Roosevelt Scary's yard. Let me repeat. If you trek up that mountain, that porous mountain, you will be falling in Roosevelt Scary's yard. Times 2. Because he's living now in one palatial mansion on the very edge of that cliff. that he spoke of, that he said, Austria and others said, is, what is his name? Hayden's house. But we know jolly well, Hayden did not come to Dominica to build a house of that magnitude just for Roosevelt Scary to stay on the people's back in the tune of 70,000 EC dollars a month. And so even that too is much cause for concern where, as I was saying earlier, the country's money is concerned. And I'm not digressing, I'm just connecting the dots. So Roosevelt Scary allegedly is renting a house from Hayden, our newly found Arab friend, in Mount Daniel, in the tune of 70,000 EC dollars. That palatial mansion, it is resting on that porous piece of rock that he spoke of. And so he is well aware of that waterway or waterways now up there that leaves him and comes down to the ordinary people. He's well aware. But from his words back then in 2018, absolutely nothing meaningful has been done in terms of making the people's lives better. And it is days like these now, when these climatic weather situations show up, that we should remember, more importantly, these words, and call Roosevelt and his rogue regime to account. Nothing else will suffice but proper accounting.
But we will move, if surveyors so to, and to acquire this land by cabinet decision tomorrow and to create access. But appreciate this, my friends, that in these circumstances, there will be need for decisive action on the part of the Prime Minister. Because they...
Let's cut it there. To be true, because I am a man, I try to speak the truth to the best of my ability. To be true, when Roosevelt uttered these words back then, I saw professionals or whoever they were, and I recognize some of them to be from the Land and Surveys Department. At least I remember two brothers there for sure. They had this thing, these instruments, whatever it is, under that Kenfield cliff in the Waving Cock area, taking measurements, doing whatever they had to do, as that section of government that needed to do the prep work in order to have that piece of road complete. So they were there, at least two, I remember. There may be more, but I saw two in the immediate past of his words. But apart from that, nothing else. Zilch. So wherever that thing fell, it fell there and stayed there. And so now you're hearing him in his own voice say this.
That in these circumstances, there will be need for decisive action on the part of the Prime Minister.
And in these circumstances, because remember he said earlier, he would have been talking or engaging the French authority, wherever they are, to go across the country to help mitigate the effects of certain areas that seriously pose a threat to life and property. And that under the cliff was one of them. And he said to us, there was the need now for that sense of urgency as it were. Back then. So you need to ask your Prime Minister, if it was urgent then, is it still urgent today in the interest of the citizenry?
because they're decisions that cannot wait for time. And those that can wait for time will allow time to pass. But I am not in the business of procrastinating.
Now, you heard what he said. But let me describe to you, those of you who don't know Roosevelt very well, what was said with how he was saying it. That part of the speech, the failed or unfulfilled promise, it came now with a smirk. It came with his face lighting up because he knew jolly well what he was saying to the people. He was not, I repeat, he was not going to move with some kind of alacrity on it. So this smirk came. And again, those of you who study people and body language, that is another sign of someone telling you a telltale story. In that by that smirk, by that smile, by that making you feel comfortably about what they're saying, they know God's tongue is a lie. They want you to have some kind of comfort in what they're saying to you by putting on that facade now, that smirk, that sort of rest easy, it's coming. And like human nature, 90% would have it. When someone smiles to you, be genuine or non-genuine, your natural reaction is to rest a bit easier. And so that is what was going on there. So apart from what he said, I am just now injecting into the statement as to the body language so you will get what was at play.
And we cannot have, committees meeting on an urgent matter, and while committees are meeting and people are suffering. So let us understand where I sit, or try to appreciate where I sit.
Okay, people? There was more that he said, but I'll cut it there for now. So he said he's not a man that does procrastinate. And procrastination, people, is basically putting off things that you can do today and putting it for tomorrow. He said, nah. From where you sit, procrastination is not in his playbook as it relates to that urgency. So Mr. Isaac Baptist, he has a phrase. Normally, he uses sometimes. I love to hear him say that in the patois dialect, the patois lingo. Jig jodi. Jig jodi. Roosevelt's carrot, meaning up till today, up till this day, Roosevelt's carried words as Prime Minister in Parliament cannot become a reality in the lives of the people for the better. And so those of you who were trapped under that cliff earlier, you could not go north, you could not go south. You need to hold Roosevelt's carrot accountable. Those of you across the length and breadth of the country now, you heard him said they were in contact with the French authority to see to other areas across the country in terms of a solution. So those of you where, when it rains, your bridge is engulfed with water you cannot pass, you need to hold him accountable. Those of you, your waterways behind your yard or wherever it is impossible. You need to hold him and his regime accountable. Because it cannot be a man in Parliament as head of government making such promises to a people. And 6 years on, these words cannot see the light of day in terms of accomplishment. And these times, people, in which we live, with the, how I should say, with climate, with the climatic conditions kicking in, we can well understand it will not get better for us. And God forbid, I keep saying that, God forbid, some Dominican would have lost his or her life under that Kenfield cliff to some sort of disaster. And we, the Dominican people, the only thing we would have to say is, Ela. To whom much is given, people, much is required. And a lot have been given to this government in terms of cash, in terms of money, in terms of resources, so that we, the Dominican public life, would have been made much better in terms of safety. I want to rest it there for that segment, but knowing fully well that what I saw today circulating on social media, secondly, and when I passed there today, I know that one day something very dangerous will happen under the Kenfield cliff, and we will only have ourselves to blame. Nobody else. Nobody else. So Dominicans, the power is always in our hands. It's just a matter of exercising it at the right and appropriate time. Some comments. T0 LaRue says, you're spot on, Dura. Glennis Coffee says, good night to you, Mr. Dura, and everyone here. Didi Easter says, once this regime falls, the Chinese and other opportunists will all move out of Dominica. Jaira Hector says, that was his promise to make it his own public property. But our heads are so filled with seaweed and devil soup, which it causes our understanding to be confused and never understand what this corn artist means. It is to made a comment there. Let me just piggyback on at least that comment before I move to another gear. Most of our infrastructures of late have been constructed or reconstructed or rehabilitated, for use of better term, by the Chinese or foreigners. And I know some of you out there don't have any issue, any qualms with foreigners or the Chinese in particular coming to do certain things for us in Dominica. Obviously, Dominica is not an island in a vacuum or country in a vacuum. So yes, we rely on, from time to time, other countries to help. But this sort of just throwing up our hands as a people and giving to foreigners now everything to reconstruct in this country to foreigners, we should not sit by and just agree that that is it. I'm saying that primarily to say, based on the conversation we're having now, before I move to the next segment, a Chinese man or Chinese men cannot, I repeat, cannot know Dominica's terrain better than Dominicans. No way. We were born here, we were raised here, we have been bred here. And so if you give a Chinese to build a school for you, if you give a Chinese man to build a road for you, to build a bridge, to do whatever for you in terms of infrastructure, there are certain things that they will not know. They will not be in the know. And so with the advent now of these foreign companies are just given a blank sheet, a blank check to just do stuff, adding insult to injury, not even having our own local professionals be engaged so that they can advise, even if it's the foreigners that do the work, but some kind of sound advice can precede or in the process of these infrastructures. So, this Gainfield Cliff we're talking about. Here it is, this volume of water is coming from that Mount Daniel area. When that road was being reconstructed by this French company, I believe it's Mr. Garakan, it was resurfaced. Or by the Chinese, I think it's by the Chinese. Because that stretch was done from Portsmouth to Tong or wherever. We remember the whole battle. When that road was being resurfaced, at least somebody should have told the Chinese, you know something? Based on experience, based on us living here, that area needs much wider a waterway so that that water could flow freely into the neighboring sea. But what you have this little 2x4 culvert under that road. And so when that thing comes down, it now, the volume of water with rocks and debris and whatever it is, gets that thing clogged and blocked up, so that water cannot now make its way to go through freely, so that you have now this backing up. It's like a clogged toilet bowl. And the stench is what we have to live with in terms of the time wasting, and more importantly, the safety of us as a people. And so, Dominicans, I really don't know how much more I can explain to you that we need to attend to our situation to the best of our ability. And this sort of sitting down approach and turning the other cheek approach and just being there. No, you have to insert yourself in your country's development at every stage. And so if a road is being built, and you as a professional in your country, you went to school, you went to study, you went to college, you went to university, you have all your, as Angelo would call it, your good skin on your wall, indicating that you are skilled in that department. And you choose to just sit back and have people come and ride roughshod over you and over your country and its development, then you only have yourselves to blame. We only have ourselves to blame, people. So of late, the Chinese and foreigners are the be it all and end it all in Dominica as it pertains to development, or so-called. So everything and anything, it is doled out, handed out to foreigners over our local people. And some Dominicans are just prepared to wait it out and see what is. No, people. We can do better than that. We have done better than that before. All right. The second line item on the agenda tonight, before we move to our brother in St. Vincent, is Monday gone, the 16th of December. We had a sitting of Parliament where, among other bills, the Electoral Reform Bill was to be read for the first time in Parliament. I know that is a very heavy metal conversation, but I'll just be touching on it from a surface level now in terms of the interest of time. The first reading was read, and what preceded that, and I got that from two sources in Barbados. The Barbados Coast Guard vessel, at least one, docked at the Woodbridge Bay port on Sunday, the day that preceded the sitting of Parliament. And so most of us, those of us who are very observant, we would have seen on Monday that the Barbados Coast Guard, at least a vessel, was. Now, Mr. Alvan Christopher, I will have none of your crap under this live feed. If you want to have a conversation, if you want to have a dialogue, that's fine. But you come in there with your broad brush statements. That's how we rule around here. So from now on, you will no longer be able to comment under this live feed. So you need to go somewhere else where you'll be much more satisfied as to what you're hearing. If you're not satisfied here, then you're not welcome here. Thank you very much, Mr. Alvan Christopher. All right, let's move on. What we do here is serious business. We don't have time for games. The Barbados Coast Guard docked on our port at Woodbridge Bay Sunday, I'm being told, the 15th, whereby they were called in to provide some sort of backup scenario, I am hearing, for the purpose of the sitting of Parliament on the Monday. So they came in on the Sunday, Parliament being on Monday, just in case that the powers that be would have called on them to provide extra backup in terms of security for what they say in their mind may have unfolded. And so we all heard the people of Dominica speaking in one voice as it relates to the bill that was about to get its first reading in Parliament. And we know that bill, based on some of the line items in that bill, it is against the interests of the people. So, for example, in that bill, where the government of the day, and you heard Roosevelt said it over and over again, he and his government, it is their intention to circumvent, bypass, go around existing laws that has worked for us in the country in terms of the safeguarding of our democracy now, whereby you want to work around that and giving overseas people who left Dominica and went overseas, their own free will, went overseas, and he wants them to be on that list, on that electors list that is heavily bloated. You heard it? So at least that is one item in that bill that will be working against the people if this rogue regime, I call them, would have their way. How can you have somebody living outside of Dominica for umpteen years? They have basically sold their flag. They're no longer interested in your country, in their country. But for every electoral cycle, we call election, you can pay them some straps to come and interfere and meddle in the local politics in the country. And for your own selfish interests, you can be reinstalled on the political front. That, people, we must stand against. We must stand against it. We heard in 2019, $70 million went into what I call the biggest heist of a political cycle. The biggest heist in our history. Stole an election in big broad daylight. And $70 million was the figure touted about as to how this regime stole an election in big broad daylight. And so if coming with that bill to be soon law, we cannot have the control or have monies be regulated in that process, then it will be the same old, same old. If we cannot have a proper way of identifying ourselves to the polling officer or the agents or whoever they are, then that process will be a process of futility. If we cannot have a process, people, by getting that old, heavy, bloated list cleaned. The last electoral cycle, we had 74,000 plus people on a list. Dominica people is no more than 65,000 post-Maria. It may be even less now. So that is a mathematical madness to tell me we have an electors list that is supposed to be, I regard it to be the holy grail of our process. Because if that list is contaminated like it has been, we can kiss all the rest of the process bye-bye. If that list is not true, a reflection of the people, the eligible voters, if that list does not reflect in a very accurate way, at least 99%, leave 1% or 0.5% for, whatever it is. If that list is not clean, is not sanitized, is not true, then everything else falls flat. And so you heard Roosevelt and others, by their way of confirmation now, they're taking, they're taking dirty clothes, mixing with clean clothes, and putting it in their wardrobe. That is a mess for those of you who, ladies out there, can understand that lingo. Men, to a small extent. Taking dirty laundry, put it in clean laundry, and mixing it up. Maybe the clean laundry smelling with fabric softener. So, just perhaps, by the dirty ones being in there, they are thinking in their warped mind, everything will smell afresh. No! The perspiration clothes is going to cut out that freshness, and in due time, everything will be stale. Everything will be dirty. And that is the process by which Roosevelt and others is going down. That is the road they want to bring us down. By having an old, nasty, bloated list with all their henchmen and henchwomen on there. Their paid voters on there. They want to have a confirmation process. You cannot get good wine out of old wine. Is old already? You need to clean it. You need to make it clean. Purge it clean. And let us start afresh. So nothing more, nothing less, people will cut it for us in terms of an overhaul, a doing over, a re-registration. That's it. You cannot have 75,000 names on a list. And out of that 75,000 names, I am the clean, John is the dirty, and we have to go through the same process of staying on that list. Nah, it can't cut it. That's madness. And so these are just some of the ways that I mentioned to you that these people are attempting to continue to steal elections through legislation. And we the people, we have to stop it at all costs. And so to come back now to the point that I was making earlier, with that Barbados Coast Guard vessel in port, it was basically there, I'm being told from the grapevine, in Barbados. They were called upon, and it was agreed by the authority now in Barbados. I guess whoever it is gave the green light to send that vessel here with men and women ready to kill Dominicans if needed. That's the long and short of it. And so, when in 2019, the RSS, that is the Regional Security Services Unit, that is supposed to be providing some sort of backup for countries in the region as a collective, when they're first facing tumultuous times. That RSS supposed to be there as a force to help. That RSS, that old RSS, they were called in under false pretense in 2019. And a lie, a very fat lie, was told to these people. And 2/3 of them signed off. And the RSS came here in Dominica, and we need not repeat what went down in Dominica on the very day of an election being stolen in big broad daylight. So now that the word is out, and the RSS, some members of the RSS saw that they were taken for a ride based on the evidence that has since come forth, the RSS is no longer or can no longer be used as a convenient tool to steal elections. So individual countries now are being picked upon or handpicked to come to provide that sort of comfort for a dictatorial regime. And so I need those of you on the live feed, please forward that to your friends in Barbados, that live feed tonight. At least you can cut out that piece. Some of you have the mastery at cutting off. Cut out that piece and let Mia Motley and her government know that we did not appreciate, in terms of whoever it is, authorized that Coast Guard vessel from Barbados to be docked in our port, providing backup security for what they were told. Pressure or very tenuous situation would have unfolded in Dominica, and we saw none of that. What we saw, on the contrary, was people who respected the rule of law came and stand and speak truth to power in defense of their country. That was what we saw. That was what was on play. And so anybody now, be it Mia and a government or any other country that would want to align themselves with that regime we have in Dominica and would deny the people of our rights, we need to have some very direct, truthful, honest, and transparent conversations with these leaders in the Caribbean to let them know exactly what we are going for in this country. And so be it Mia, be it Holness, be it JPF, be it Deacon, be it Gaston, be it Ralph, any one of them, and others, they need to know exactly what is going on in Dominica, so that when that request is made, they will think twice or fact check that situation. Because it is basically, as they would tell you, they don't want nobody interfering or mingling in the local politic business. And so what played out there on Monday, from Sunday, it is some sort of interference now in our own local politics here from the Barbados end, single-handedly. I will not go too far. I will not drift too far in saying that it maybe is a payback from Ross being stolen from us. I will not go that far. But when things like that unfold, your mind tends to drift very, very far. Tend to drift very far. And so here it is. Dominicans were prepared to exercise our rights that is protected by the Constitution of this country. And you're having another country or other countries being tapped into now to help deny or to help suppress a people from exercising their God-given / constitutional rights. And so these women, these men, wherever they are, it must be told to them in very, very direct language. And so on that note, a letter will be dispatched forthwith to the authority, that is the word that's been touted about, to the authority in Barbados, letting them know such behavior we did not accept it and it shall not be condoned. Let me see what you guys have to say. Mary Jo says Ross was handed on a platter. Dee Easter writes, the Barbados Coast Guard is acting on orders of Mia Motley as a favor to her WhatsApp buddy for gifting her Ross University. Well, Dee Esther, I read what you said, but I cannot prove what you said in terms of the veracity of it. So I will not be part and parcel of that statement directly. But what you inferred, there may be some truth to it. But as I said, we don't know for a fact as to some of your utterances there. So we will leave it as that for now. But thank you very much for your comment indeed. Mia, somebody's writing, Mia needs to stick to her own affairs. I agree with that 110%. Griffo Daniel, Lofty, I do believe that they all know. La Rose comes back and right here, exhibiting a lot of fear, I see. I don't want to laugh. As to why you're laughing, then you can make that clear. Julia Boney writes, when your own leader turning on its citizens because they're asking for free and fair election, that person says war. Marshall Lawrence says the eve of the elections in 2019. Rosie Mango writes, and that is the Mia Motley that some Dominicans are proud of. Julia Bonny writes, but if he purge it, he will lose, and he cannot use poor people's freedom to hide. Marlene Schillingford writes, Emo News funeral has an indication of the amount of deaths in Dominica in the year 2024. James Cam writes, Mia Motley is a disgrace. We need to know what she owes Skerry. Is it Ross? Why is she so busy to send her bulldogs to kill Dominicans to defend Skerry? People are fighting for their democracy. She cannot do to Barbadians what she is helping Skerry to do to Dominicans. Jaira Hector writes, it's just those in position that make it difficult for us to understand that his will must be done. Let me see if I can get 2 or 3 more comments in there before we move to the next gear. Tijo says, my father died on 26th of December 1985, yet he is still on the list. Well, Tijo, what I can offer you in terms of advice, what you need to do, if you know your father is dead, as you're saying here, you need to go to the electoral office, fill up a form, and indicate there's a prescribed form that you, teacher, can help clean that list. So if you know your father is dead since 1985, it really doesn't add anything in terms of trying or helping the process by repeating it here. Would that we know your father died? But do the next thing. Take the next step. Go in there next week or January, whenever you choose. Go to the electoral office. Provide the proof. You, your mother, your sister, whoever it is, must have in your possession. Or if you don't have, check the registry. A birth, or not birth, sorry, death certificate. Bring that into the electoral office and ask that you sign the form, you fill up that prescribed form, and ask that your dad's name be removed from that voting list. That is the way that individually we can act. All right? Thank you very much indeed. Dorival Drago says the voted list is bogus. Marshall Lawrence, and probably only 440 plus thousand legally registered. I think you are mentioning something else here. Marshall. Let me see here. He's in control and Dominica will soon be free. His will be done in due time. That's coming from another writer here. Let me just see if I can get one or two new names here and then we move on. All right? Marshall says, last comment before I move on, Marshall says, from my understanding, the RSS is called to duty only when there is chaos, uncontrolled civil unrest, that the local security forces are able to take control of the situation. Marshall, yes, you are spot on in that regard, but we know when it comes to politics, then although things are written in black and white, and they are supposed to be adhered to in a certain way, but you know how politics plays into, or the partisan politics now plays into some of these writings, some of the sacred writings, and how things can get intertwined. All right? But we saw it played out in 2019, and we really and truly won't want it to play out again in the lifespan or lifetime of Dominica political future. Okay, let's see now, people, if we can move across to another item on the agenda. Yeah, let me see if I could go now to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where lawyer and candidate for the New Democratic Party, that is Mr. Israel Bruce, he had some words to say to some of his people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And let me just move across to him now so you can hear what he had to say. And then we continue the conversation by me now bringing in what he mentioned about St. Vincent and the Grenadines and bringing it to plain Dominica here. So we'll have that sort of juxtaposing of information, and then we will wind down the conversation with what I deem to be some sort of, what I should call it, political mixing of things. A very deceptive move by the handing out of home/housing by the Dominica Labour Party. The latest we heard, 60 homes by Melissa Skerritt, basically laying claim for these homes in terms of their giving them out to the beneficiaries in Dominica. We'll sort of break that down and let you get a better understanding of what is at play here. All right, let me just move across to my brother Bruce for his words, and we will be back in just a bit. Yeah? All right, brother Bruce, where are you? I think we are here. This way we can blow that up. Yeah. Now, I think we want to start, the gist of the conversation starts with this brother about, memory serves me right, 8 minutes 49 seconds, thereabout. Yeah, let's take it from, no, that's 7 up to 7, okay, right here. Let me just unmute this.
And boys and girls, viewers, listeners, wherever you are. A moment ago, I received a telephone call, and it was most troubling. As you are aware, in the Parliament of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, there was approved monies to support farmers who have been affected by the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Highly on Maxwell and Sandra. Of course, farmers who have been affected would have gone through the necessary process and registered, looking for some sort of support to help them to carry on, to carry over. Good to you, my brother, my sister Shandy. In these very difficult times, and that is understood. In times of natural disasters, persons are going to be affected. They're going to reach out for help. And of course, governments across the world, and so too is the expectation and responsibility of the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to reach out and support those persons who have been affected. So that fisher folks and farmers and other light persons who have suffered the consequence of Hurricane Beryl have been invited to get some assistance through government interventions. Today, persons journeyed to Orange Hill, to try to get that assistance that was offered to farmers. Good that you Nels Hilux and Iraqi Huggins. Now, you can imagine that a farmer who farms in grapes, as far as grapes, I am going almost to the very northern tip of the constituency. And these farmers were required to travel all the way from grapes, Lornas, Lomans, Chapmans, Diamonds, Newgrounds, New Delphi, South Union, North Union, Union. They were required to travel to Orange Hill to get this little allowance, this little subsistence, this little contribution that was being made to farmers. And you would not believe what was reported to me, and I have been able to verify it to be the case, that today, in Orange Hill, there was close to, if not more than 2,000 farmers at Orange Hill seeking to get some sort of assistance on the program. Close to 2,000 farmers. But guess what? I have been advised that most, because it was horrible, most of these farmers, firstly, had to leave Orange Hill, welcome Shamila Ennis, without a dime in their pockets. Not a red cent, not a check, not a voucher, nothing. Many of whom paid their last dollar to get to Orange Hill with the hopes that they were going to get something to head into Kingston and probably take some food home to their families. That was not to happen. That did not happen. You could imagine that a farmer leaves South Central Windward and travels all the way to Orange Hill in the North Windward constituency, only to find, my friends, only to find that their names, many of them, that their names were not on any list to receive the assistance. Now, for God's sake, for the sake of humanity, why would you have people traveling such a long distance, not even knowing whether or not they will eventually get something at the distribution point? That's the first question. The second question is, why take people from all the way as northern, as Greeks, and take them all the way to Orange Hill? Couldn't we have had several distribution points? So that whereas Orange Hill would have been an ideal distribution point for farmers in a particular vicinity, why did we have a place closer to the farmers who are coming from the Great Lobos Lauders area, Diamonds Montgomery area, so that they could have accessed whatever assistance was had? And you would imagine that if a farmer leaves Great and goes to, let's say, North Union, and for whatever reason, I don't want to speculate on the reasons, for whatever reason, that he or she does not find his or her name on the list of persons to receive, you're right there at North Union. You might be able to hitch a ride back up to Greats. But you need to tell me, Sabrina Dabrio and Deborah Deschamps, that people leaving Greats and having to travel all the way to Orange Hill only to find that their name was not on a list to receive any assistance. And the amount of pushing and shoving and the extent of almost what appears to be forcing people to be barbaric in trying to get a little assistance. This is not right. The farmers of this country deserve a greater degree of respect than we are offering them. The farmers of this country have carried the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines for years. The farmers of this country has contributed significantly to the overall development of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That is why you hear we say in the New Democratic Party that agriculture will be one of the pillars of economic development in an NDP administration going forward. Welcome, Sean. It is not just lip service. It is understanding the important role that farmers have played, are playing, and will continue to play in the overall economic advancement of our country. But to treat farmers the way that they have been treated now by the powers that be, it is absolutely ridiculous and unacceptable. Sort the farmers out. Let them know whether or not their name is on list A, list B, or list C. And when those farmers on which list will receive the little assistance. Don't treat our people like this. It is ridiculous to the core. It is wickedness at a time when the farmers are facing the Christmas celebrations and are eager, expecting to get something at this distribution point. Traveled early this morning with a little drop of hot water and a piece of bread on the stomach. Nothing else to eat. Are you treating the farmers of this country like this? You asking farmers to travel that distance to get a little $500, and when they get there, you tell them that their name is not on the list? That they must turn around after spending hours in Orange Hill and find their way back to Diamonds and Montgomery and Lauders and Lomans and Greds and Chapmans and New Adelphi, North and South Union and Hadley's Village. You tell them turn around and go back home now. And do what? Come on, Sabuto, man. This can't be right. You can't be treating people like this. It is a simple administrative something that needs to be done. As simple as deciding farmers from which villages will appear at what location. Or farmers in the alphabetical range, with surnames A to D, that will deal with you on this day at this location. I mean, how could you rest in your beds, guys? How could you feel comfortable to go to bed? Gentlemen, if I could call you all that, and ladies, knowing that you are treating the farmers of this country like crap. Because this is what that amounts to. Because you know the level of poverty being faced by the farmers of this country, you realize that every dollar that you put on a string, you have them running behind it. This is not right. This is not good. This is not fair. This is not decent. It is heartless she-liberties. It is wicked. So when people show up expecting something to go back home with, and you leave them with empty hands, broken hearts, and hungry stomach, and then what? And then what, my friends? How you deal for that, Jacqueline? Please, in this season, the season of love, the season of caring, the season of sharing, I ask the Honorable Minister of Agriculture to apologize to the farmers who journeyed to Overland today and under such harsh conditions, pushing, tugging, and had to walk into the room sometime to be met with guns by our police officers who are trying to provide security, and to have them be pushed back with guns brandished around them. It's not good. Kenrick Johnson asked whether money was distributed at all. I was made to understand that some farmers did receive. I am told if there were about 2,000 farmers there, about 60 to 80 of them may have received something. I was not there. I have no reason to doubt persons reporting to me. The persons I trust to tell the truth and not to exaggerate in circumstances like this. Do the decent thing, do the right thing, and ensure that we bring back degree of respectability that once accorded our farmers and fisher folks. I remember, I know the days when banks, Sister Annella Walker, banks were begging our farmers, Sister Mavis Thomas, begging farmers, come please, farmers come and borrow some money to buy a vehicle, Sister Greta. The farmers in those days, in a sense as we say in the local parlance, were breaking style on the banks. No? We're not talking banks. We're talking politicians distributing $500 and $600. They're the ones who are now breaking style on farmers in this country. This is the same government that promised to bring agriculture of bananas back to its glory days. This is a shame, Sister Hamsita. It is a crying shame what has happened to our farmers over the last couple of days. Somebody must stand up and apologize. And if they will not do it, I would like to apologize to the farmers of this country who journeyed to Orange Hill today only to find that there was nothing for them. Absolutely nothing but shame and embarrassment in addition to hunger. Somebody will pay a price. The farmers of this country must not be taken for granted. Somebody must be made to pay a price for this. Thank you. God bless you. I love you guys. Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. In spite of that difficulty, in spite of the challenges, in spite of the embarrassment, in spite of the wickedness, I still want to say to you, hold steadfast, because brighter days and better days are coming for the farmers of St. Vincent and the Grenadines under a new administration. Better days are coming. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year is what I wish for you so very much.
All right, folks, in the interest of time, yes, I want to cut to Mr. Bruce here, but I want to say thank you very much to you, Mr. Bruce, for having the gumption to represent at least a certain section of your people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, namely the farming or the farmers, the farming community. I want to thank you very much for you being a legal mind, a lawyer, and having what it takes to speak clearly to that situation where, based on what I heard from you, the rights, what is due or what was due to some of the farmers in your country, it wasn't meted out to them. So in a nutshell, an injustice was meted out, and so you being a lawyer, the lawyer that I know, will always fight for justice no matter where it springs from. So again, I want to thank you very much, and I know that the farming community in your country, these guys are proud of you for standing up with them through thick, and this time it is thin indeed. Folks, in the interest of time, the two other segments that I had planned for you guys tonight in terms of the housing situation in Dominica, time has basically elapsed on us. So for example, next week, if God spare, I will be starting with that housing section because I don't want to rush it. I think there's much food for thought in there, much to be educated about. So I want to leave that for next week so that we can feast on that in a very, very special way indeed. But just to wind up on Mr. Israel's point that he made, and comparing and contrasting that to our own situation in Dominica. We know of situations in Dominica where some of our farmers, they are going through hells as we speak in this country. Some of what that is due to them, especially when they lost everything for natural disasters. Some of the bona fide farmers in Dominica have not seen a red cent, have not gotten a red cent from the government, from the powers that be, because it is perceived that they are not towing or have not been towing the political line. So we know of that situation in Dominica. And so it is nothing new that what is happening in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to farmers, that also has been happening and continues to happen to some farmers in Dominica. The farmers in St. Vincent, as you heard Mr. Bruce said, basically they can be considered as the backbone of the economy in St. Vincent. Because here it is, St. Vincent doesn't have, they are not participant in a passport selling program like Dominica. So farming plays a crucial, a very critical role in the economy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So again, Mr. Bruce is just highlighting the point that you should not forsake what has stood the test of time for so long in terms of food where the farmers are concerned. And I just want to echo or re-echo or reiterate that call to the powers that be, that A, please look at the farmers in a different light in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Make them be happy, or make them be happier. I hope that is not going on in St. Vincent as bad as it is going on in Dominica. Because we have people who, their hand have not seen the soil. And they have more fertilizers, more inputs, more of whatever it is, more tools stored away in their storerooms and then under the beds. Because they are singing a political song, and so they're given these inputs, given these tools, given these materials, and they are no close to be a farmer. We have this situation in Dominica where people are closely connected to the cabal, to the regime, the rogue one that is in Dominica. They are afforded vehicles at a duty-free rate or duty-free rates. So you have a lot of FA number-plated vehicles going all over the place. SUVs, buses, pickups, whatever it is. And these people, they are no known farmers. And so I hope, Mr. Bruce, that things are not as bad. I know you're pleading, I know you're petitioning the powers that be, but I hope things are not that bad like we are witnessing in Dominica, where the farming community is concerned. We also have the situation about access to proper farming lands. That has been eluding the farmers, the bona fide farmers, for some time in this country. So the government has not been in a position to come and take up that slack, to put these feeder roads in a certain order that the farmers, those who are blessed with vehicles, could drive to and through to their farm and make an honest day's work. So that too is a situation that needs addressing in Dominica. We also have this situation again, as I spoke of before, a promise. Roosevelt Skerritt promised the farming community a boat that Dominica would be in charge of or partner with some other country in the region. These guys are always partnering with people on the wrong or for the wrong reasons. So again, that is another failed promise in his heart where the farmers or farming community is concerned. How long have he promised the farmers some sort of transportation arrangement to take their goods from Dominica to dock it wherever that they could make an extra buck? But no, this government have the prescription of having people remain poor so that they can continue to ride roughshod over them. That is where and how dictatorship thrives. When you have people who are so indigent, they are so low down on the economic scale that they really and truly cannot fend for themselves and depend on the state now, the machinery of the state, to provide to them toilet paper. And that is where we are in Dominica. So how long, people? How long? So the farmers in Dominica, Mr. Bruce, I'm telling you, we are no different from what you guys are facing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A matter of fact, it was a minister of government, Mr. Reginald Ostry, basically said to us, the nation, agriculture is a has-been industry. So agriculture is no longer the pride that Dominicans could have, fortified themselves in to make an honest living. Right about now, they have found themselves caught up in the selling of their birthright, or our birthright, the selling of our passports to all crooks, criminals, vagabonds, scoundrels, thieves, just name it. They are in possession of our passport. And so when we travel overseas, we are looked upon 2 and 3 times as to people of suspect. Because we don't know who are in possession of our passport. Agriculture used to be the thing that, as you alluded to, made us proud in Dominica. Farmers used to step into any car dealership, have their little bag under their arm, and just buy a vehicle, cash, and move. But today, it's not that. Anything you throw in Dominica in terms of a seed, it will grow. It will grow. We have the soil, we have the water, we have the resources, the sunlight, all the ingredients to make Dominica the beacon it was in the region. But no, you have a government that is so inclined to keep a people poor that they are not providing, they have not made the enabling environment conducive enough for people to work. And that is what it is. That is what it is, people. That is what it is. And so, Mr. Bruce, I just want to commend you, sir, for speaking on behalf of the farmers. And I hope your words will, bear some fruit, as it were. And by you representing the interests of your people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, they will have much faith in you guys as opposition forces. So that when, I'm not saying it, when you guys take over the reins of the country in terms of political power, your words will not be like Roosevelt in Dominica, but you will back up your words by making the enabling environment to the farming community that St. Vincent and the Grenadines could be this beacon in terms of agricultural produce. So thank you, my brother. Thank you for the representation in that department. I just thought I would sort of, expound on it tonight based on your words and sort of give it that sort of extra legs that it needed for Dominicans and those on the live feed and those who will be seen to sort of understand what you guys are facing in Dominica and your in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and your representation indeed. Folks, if you know me very well, I'm a man of time, and so we are just about on time. And so the aspect of the homes/houses in Dominica that is given out, should I say free? There's nothing free. The homes that is given out in Dominica by some people, they want to lay claim to these houses as if, well, it is the Dominica Labour Party, whatever is left of the real Labour Party, that is giving out these free homes to these people. That is a fallacy. So I want to debunk that foolishness right there. Dominica Labour Party has not given anybody nothing free, no house, no clothes, nothing free. There's always an agenda behind it. And so next week, if God spare, we'll be looking at that aspect of our quote-unquote development, where homes/houses are doled out to people on a partisan basis, those who are perceived to be supporting the regime, versus what we knew before. So we'll be getting into that next week. And also, mid-January, there's something that we, the Dominican people, we have to continue to stand up against, and that is whatever bill is going towards Parliament or going to Parliament. I'm being told the second and third reading will be done in January, the second week thereabout, third week thereabout. And I am giving us prior warning, prior notice. Anything that is not in accordance with free, fair, and transparent general elections, we have to be prepared, not just to talk about it, but be prepared to put our bodies on the line now to say that we mean what we say. So Dominicans, we have some rough days ahead. We have some rugged days ahead. But it will pay off at the end of the day in the interest of your country and in the interests of your children and your children's children. Thank you, Dominicans. Tomorrow on the Civic Vibes program, finally, we'll be continuing the conversation on Friend for Election and what to look forward to in the future with Mrs. Felix, Rosie Felix. That's a bright spark among us as a female, very outspoken, very brave soul there in the vineyard. And so we'll be hearing from her, and also Mr. Lennon Matthew, who is another bright spark as well in that field, and who will encourage us, who will continue the struggle with us in terms of what it takes to continue to demand what we all so want and so desire for free and fair and transparent and electoral process indeed. So Dominicans, having said that, I want to bid you a good night and enjoy what is left of your night tonight. And I just hope that the good Lord above will grant you sweet sleep, and you'll get a rejuvenated